All right, let's jump right into this explainer. Today, we are looking at a frontier of modern technology that is equal parts fascinating and, frankly, a little terrifying. We're exploring the world of swarm dynamics and the cutting-edge anti-swarming technologies being developed to counter them. This really isn't science fiction anymore. This is the current, everyday reality of aerospace and defense. Over the next few minutes, we're going to break down exactly how these highly complex systems operate, how they actually think, and most importantly, how in the world we can stop them.
I want you to picture something for a second. Imagine looking out at the horizon. You aren't seeing one or two approaching aircraft. Instead, you see this dark, shifting cloud of hundreds of tiny aircraft, all moving in perfect, eerie synchronization. They aren't being joystick piloted individually by people in a control room. No, they think and act as a single, collective mind. Experts literally call them digital locusts. It's the ultimate evolution of the uncrewed aerial system threat, where just the sheer, overwhelming number of attackers is the primary weapon, specifically designed to absolutely saturate and defeat even the most advanced traditional defenses.
Now, you might be wondering where this whole concept actually comes from. Well, swarm technology is really just the logical progression of robotics, AI, and autonomous computing, and it is fundamentally based on biological mimicry. Engineers didn't just invent this concept out of thin air. They looked at nature. They observed how social, hive-mind creatures operate out in the wild. Ants, locusts, birds flocking in the sky, honeybees. They studied how these creatures achieve incredibly complex tasks without any kind of central leader, and they've meticulously mimicked that exact decentralized behavior in the digital world.
So, for a swarm to function without a human controlling every single unit, its brain relies on 4 core principles. First up is specialization. The system automatically distributes specific jobs among its different members. Second is communication. The drones absolutely must interact, either directly or indirectly, sharing data in real time. Third is member participation, which basically means the actions of one single drone change the environment, and that immediately influences the behavior of the rest of the group. And finally, regulation. The AI manages the overall working state of the entire flock, so the whole thing doesn't just evolve into chaos.
Of course, the most obvious problem is, how do they avoid instantly crashing into a giant fireball? That brings us to their first basic movement protocol, collision avoidance. Their sensors use continuous positive and negative feedback loops, constantly screaming, "too close," or "all clear" to each other. This maintains a strict, invisible buffer zone between every single member of the group at all times.
Okay, so once they know they aren't going to hit each other, they have to actually move with purpose. And that's the second protocol, velocity matching. Every single unit in the swarm is constantly synchronizing its speed and its direction with its neighbors. If the drones on the left flank suddenly speed up, the drones in the center and on the right instantly adjust their velocity to match. It's like an invisible tether that ensures the cloud moves as one cohesive wave, rather than just a scattered mess.
And the third protocol, tying it all together, is flock centering. This is a behavioral tendency programmed right into every robot to continuously pull toward the center of mass of the entire group. So think about it. They push away from each other to avoid collisions, they match speeds to stay cohesive, and they constantly pull inward to maintain the tightest possible formation. These 3 simple rules, running constantly in the background, create the flawless illusion of a single massive entity.
To see how this biological mimicry actually translates to real physical hardware, let's look at what's currently deployed globally. A prime example is the United States Locust program. As the name suggests, this is a tube-based launcher system designed to fire uncrewed aerial systems into the air in incredibly rapid succession. Instead of slowly launching individual aircraft, Locust just spits them out one after another. The very second they hit the air, those 3 flight protocols take over. They immediately link up, form their swarm, and proceed to their objective as a totally unified force.
Another really fascinating application is the Perdix system. Now, these are micro drones. We're talking incredibly small here, just 6 to 10 inches in size. What makes them so unique is how they're deployed. They are dropped directly out of the flare dispensers of high-speed fighter jets. Once they're released into that highly turbulent air, these tiny units survive the massive physical shock, instantly wake up, find each other, and start executing highly complex autonomous maneuvers. It essentially turns a single fighter jet into a mothership for a self-organizing robotic army.
For the development of these systems is absolutely a global race. Take a look at China's Skywalker S6. This is a demonstrated, highly coordinated network of dozens of uncrewed aerial systems, specifically 67 in their tested iterations, executing missions entirely collaboratively.
They share sensor data, they divide tasks among themselves, and they cover vast areas of terrain. It's a textbook illustration of those specialization and communication AI principles we discussed earlier, operating flawlessly at a massive scale.
Then we have the sheer raw speed of the Russian sixth-generation fighter concept. This one flips the script slightly. Instead of hundreds of tiny microdrones, this involves a single, human-piloted aircraft acting as the central node. That pilot controls a smaller swarm of about 10 heavy advanced uncrewed systems. But here is the real kicker. They intend to do this at hypersonic speeds. We are talking Mach 4 to Mach 5. The processing power required to maintain velocity matching and collision avoidance at 5 times the speed of sound is absolutely staggering.
But hey, it's not all about kinetic strikes or combat. Swarms offer immense logistical utility too. Take the hummingbird swarm concept, for example. These are uncrewed systems designed specifically to fly into regions with zero existing infrastructure, maybe a natural disaster zone or a highly remote area, and literally become the infrastructure. They hover in a coordinated formation to create instant mobile radio networks or massive WLN transmitters. The swarm itself becomes a floating, highly resilient cell tower.
So when we zoom out, why are armed forces worldwide investing billions into this? Because they are incredibly versatile tools. You can use them for massive, rapid search and rescue operations over oceans. You can use them for precision weapon delivery or autonomous mine laying and clearing. But their most potent application by far is C4ISR. That stands for Command, Control, Communications, Computers, Intelligence, Surveillance, and Reconnaissance. A swarm can flood an enemy's airspace, physically blind their radar, intercept all their communications, and entirely cripple their intelligence systems before human troops ever even arrive on the scene.
Which brings us to the terrifying reality for anyone trying to defend against these things. Standard point defense is practically useless against a swarm. Traditional air defense works on a very simple 1-to-1 ratio. You detect an incoming threat, you fire one missile, you destroy one target. But imagine a hostile swarm of 100 drones approaching a base. Even if your highly advanced, incredibly expensive point defense gun hits 5 drones perfectly, well, 95 of them still get through. The math simply does not work in favor of the defender. To survive, defenders have to completely shift their paradigm from standard point defense to area effect weapons. You can't just shoot the individual arrows. You literally have to burn the sky. The prime example of this is the EMP, or electromagnetic pulse. When an EMP is deployed, it releases a massive, incredibly short burst of energy. In a single microsecond, it physically fries the microcontrollers of every single drone in that cloud simultaneously. Deprived instantly of their collision avoidance and velocity-matching brains, the entire cloud just tumbles from the sky like rain. So to break these swarms apart, defenders have had to develop a whole spectrum of shield technologies. This ranges from mass neutralization via EMPs to physical melting with lasers, all the way down to surprisingly low-tech physical countermeasures. Let's break down how a few of these fascinating countermeasures actually work out in the field. Directed energy is one of the cleanest solutions we have right now. We're talking about solid-state laser arrays. Instead of firing physical bullets, these systems project a high-output, invisible beam of concentrated light. The system uses advanced targeting to zoom in on a drone, hold the beam on it for a fraction of a second until its plastic or metal chassis literally melts and structurally fails, and then it instantly snaps to the next target. It's a high-precision sequential kill method with an infinitely deep magazine, as long as you have a steady supply of electricity, of course. For closer, much more desperate engagements, we still rely on brute force kinetic defense. These are your quick reaction gun systems. They don't try to snipe the drones individually. Instead, they utilize incredibly high rates of fire, pumping out specialized ammunition equipped with proximity fuses. These rounds don't even need to hit the drone directly, they just detonate when they get close. It essentially creates a massive, brutal iron curtain of fragmentation in the air. Any swarm flying into that designated grid is completely shredded by the sheer density of flying shrapnel. Sometimes, though, the best way to fight a swarm is with your own swarm, or by attacking its mine directly. The repellent system, for instance, is designed to detect and neutralize incoming swarms at incredible distances, over 30 kilometers away, by deploying interceptor drones. It's basically a tactical, automated dogfight high up in the sky. Alternatively, defenders utilize cyber warfare. They use passive receivers to find the controlling brain or master station of the swarm, exploit the software algorithms, and literally hack the adversary's network. They can issue a return-to-home command, ending the whole threat without firing a single shot. But amidst all these high-tech lasers and cyber warfare tactics, one of the most effective countermeasures is shockingly simple and completely low-tech: physical countermeasures.
Systems deploy what's called anti-UAS chaff. Now, this isn't metal foil like the old days. We are talking clouds of Kevlar strings or high-tensile expanding foam. When deployed directly in the path of a swarm, these strings physically tangle the rotors. The foam sticks to the camera lenses, totally baffling the sensors and clogging the physical movement of the drones, effectively turning their own high-speed velocity right against them.
Which brings us to the final and I think most fascinating point of this explainer. I want to leave you with this thought. We know that these advanced swarms are powered by highly complex, cutting-edge AI. But if a drone swarm is specifically programmed with autonomous collision avoidance and flock centering, designed to constantly react to the environment and its neighbors, why does a simple physical barrier, like Kevlar strings or expanding foam, cause the entire collective swarm to completely crash and fail, even if the chaff only physically hits a few of the lead drones? It's a brilliant paradox, really. Sometimes the absolute best way to defeat a collective digital superbrain is with a tangled piece of string. Thanks for joining me on this explainer. I really hope this sparked your curiosity.